we go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RC jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook 'em weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bro Roadshow. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is the Bro Roadshow special walleye opener edition. So you never know what's going to happen tonight. So pay close attention, and good to see everybody. Tony and everybody showing up. Randy, long time no see. We might have an extended show depending on if we don't run out of stuff. We got some great guests tonight, so it's going to be amazing. But I want to give, before anything else, I want to give special thanks to Chesterburg Toyota. Without them, the show wouldn't exist. And Chesterburg is like the best place to buy a car, get your car fixed. Their salesmen are fantastic, and their repair shop is state of the art. Beautiful place. Good to see everybody, Ron. If you go there, they always have coffee. And they're friendly. Go look at a trade or a brand new one and check it out. Good to see, Neil. Chesterburg Toyota, the best in the business. And they're also going to have a kids giveaway, so check out their Facebook site for the big kids giveaway. Fantastic stuff going on there. I also want to thank Bemidji Sports Center. You want to get back in the woods, get back in the mud, go to Bemidji Sports Center, check out a side-by-side four-wheeler, tricked out, really cool stuff. You know, we all want that stuff. Great for winter, but in the summer, get back to those far back lakes, everywhere you want to go. And the riding is going to be great. Bemidji Sports Center. And then, of course, visit Bemidji. One stop to find out where everything's going to happen. If you want to come to Bemidji, definitely go to Visit Bemidji. Press it into your phone, into your computer. Visit Bemidji, and you're going to have a great vacation because it is a really cool place, and definitely visit Bemidji. So without further ado, I want to bring on my co-host Sam Larsen, who has a little bragging to do. And this ain't fishing, but you kind of angled up a big old tom.
I did. It's kind of fishing related because now that I'm tagged out, I can forget about the turkeys and focus.
Oh my gosh!
Fishing. But yes, last Wednesday, actually, right after the show, I was able to get a nice turkey that morning before work.
Beautiful.
So it was a great week, though. It was a lot of fun. So
I'd like to see what your freezer looks like. Look at that thing, and you know what? That's going to go great with some walleyes on the opener. Look at the feathers on that, and I see you got the hunt monkeys going.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
cold mornings out there. So yeah, I was definitely having the hunt monkey gloves on and the fleece face mask. So.
Well, you know, we got a great show tonight. I'm super excited about it because, well, opener, it was a long winter. People need this. This is really what we need to get going, and we want to give advice. That's why Sam and I are here, and that's why we have the guests we have. And Sam, that was a rocket turkey. I mean, holy cow. So before we move forward, anything going on in the area? And tell me about this new Northland, this kit, the cabin kit.
So just this week, we launched these new things called cabin kits. So I think Brooke's going to bring up some pictures of the walleye kit. And what they are is kind of an assorted box of tackle of everything you need to catch walleyes. So it's got a couple hard baits in there. It's got jigs, bobbers. I think there's some rigs in there. There's some soft plastic. So everything you need to catch walleyes. We also have a bass kit and a panfish kit, and they're loaded with all good stuff too. This isn't like a closeout box of stuff that we're just trying to get rid of. This is all, what we consider A items in it.
That is a Northland platter right there.
It's pretty cool kit. They're available on our website. And being in the Midwest, if you're in Minnesota, Iowa, the Dakotas, if you place an order now, it should get here this time. So if you're in Minnesota and you want to get some for walleye opener, maybe for the kid, maybe for their buddies, maybe have a challenge to see if you can catch a fish on each lure in it, go ahead and place your orders at northlandtackle.com. So
super cool. Love it. And now we're going to bring on this next guest. As he's fished every tournament there's everywhere, and he is always in the top. But he also owns Timberline Sports in Black Duck. He's a hardcore angler, and he is always with me. We do guide trips together and everything. Carl Adams, who is about as fishy as they get, and he is going to give us some good advice. How's Carl doing?
Not too bad, bro. You see, Sam, it's the right time of year. Well, lakes all opened up. We were always all a little nervous about it, but all the lakes opened up, and it's all looking good. It's going to be a really nice opener.
It was quick when it happened, didn't it?
It went fast. Like Sam and I were talking about, and you earlier, how fast everything went. And real quick, Sam, how much was a cabin kit?
Yeah, so I got a question about that. I believe they're $49.99. So
okay,
$50.
Perfect. So, Carl, everybody wants to know how is the bait coming? Are we going to have any bait? Because a lot of ponds froze out last winter.
Well, there's been a lot of days I was kind of nervous about that, and in the lakes, the ponds just opened up maybe a little over a week ago, and a lot of the lakes, where we get most of our shiners is off of Red Lake, and so with that opened up on Friday, usually within a week I get some shiners, but it sounds like today I had my bait guy say that he already had some shiners in the trap, so they're kind of a sure thing. I'll have shiners in the tanks probably tonight, probably already, and for sure I will the next couple days. So we'll have some shiners in the tanks. I think everything is going to work out perfectly. It's been kind of tight right now, but fatheads are just getting caught. Things opened up late, so things are behind. It's going to be a little harder to get as many big leeches, as many fatheads. There's going to be a little bit of shortage, but I think we're going to be ready for opener. And I think with the nice weather, it's supposed to be, lows in the 50s, highs in the 70s this week. Even if we don't get a lot of sun, I think minnows are going to trap in that weather. So I think it's going to be good for opener.
That's a good sign.
Hey, and before we get too far into the questions with Carl, I also forgot, we got a reminder about the prize pack tonight. So we got another prize pack. Some of the new Northland tackle tungsten jigs in there.
Wow.
Some of the mimic jigs. We got some Bro Roadshow swag with the mug and the hat. And then, of course, the Visit Bemidji stuff. So you got stuffed animal, pollen babe, and a hoodie. So make sure to like, comment, and share the show, and that'll get you entered in to win the giveaway. So
that's a pile. But
right.
they still got to come over, Carl, because not all the colors are there. They got to load up, right? And there's northerns.
Back to fishing. So the bait sounds like it's going to be there. Are the fish going to be there? What do you think the opener's setting up to look like right now?
These early openers are really good for the lakes close to us. So I do think a lot of times there'll be a lot of fish staged in just a few areas. The one Red Lake is always fantastic on a year when anytime there's a late opener, it seems like those fish are really concentrated along the shoreline. And then the population is really strong up there. So they increase the limits, big population. I can't imagine anything but a fantastic bite for Red. Red is going to be really good. The other lake that I'm close to is Black Duck Lake, and Black Duck seems to always be good on late years too. It's one of the first lakes to go. It's a little shallower. It gets a lot of rivers flow in from the south, so it warms up a couple shallow bays there. So two of the lakes that always start out really good are right in our wheelhouse, and they're going to be really good. I think you're going to see that along the lines, your Lake Irvins, your Kitchies. I think some of those, your main lakes, your Casses and some of the big lakes like even Bemidji might be a little bit tougher. You're going to have to fish the spots that warmed up fastest that are still in kind of that river system type things to have good bites, but there will be a really good bite in some of those areas.
So what are you going to have tied on? What Northland tackle are you going to have tied?
I a lot of times open up on Black Duck, and we tend to have a pretty good population of small northerns that eat my jigs. So rather than fish with a tungsten jig, which I really like and have a great luck, I probably am just going to have an RZ jig on because I'm going to go through a few jigs. So I know I'm going to catch a lot of fish on an RZ jig, and so that's probably my go-to on opener. I do change it up a little bit. If I'm fishing plastics, Northland makes some wonderful jigs for plastics. And then that new tungsten jig. So if I'm fishing on red where I don't get cut off and don't break off as often, I usually use those premium ones. I think they work a little better. If I'm fishing on Black Duck and I'm going to lose 20 jigs a day, I probably am probably going to just have a little RZ jig on.
That's good for Northland, Sam.
I love Northern Pike. Northern Pike have paid for so many of my paychecks, so keep them coming.
That's a
no,
nice
but that's a
tungsten
great
one.
point that there's, certain times to use certain jigs, but the good news is Northland has them all. So,
Yep.
Carl, talk a little bit more. You said there's some new regulations on red. Do you know them off the top of your head? You want to tell
Yeah,
everyone?
so they there's a really big population of smaller fish out there that are starting to get a little bigger, and they don't want them to get too big. If you get too many big fish, they don't have as good of spawns. So they're trying to lower some, or reduce some of those smaller fish. So there's a 1/17, not a true slot, but there's a 1/17. But you can have 5 fish total. So you could have 5 16-inchers, which I think there's a lot of those 15, 16-inchers out there. But early in the season, where you're going to see a lot of fish over 17, because those females and even the bigger mature fish are all up along the shoreline. So when you're catching those big numbers, you're going to catch a lot where you're probably going to have too many over 17 inches that you got to throw back. But there's enough 15, 16s. You're going to end up going home with a limit of beautiful fish. It's
Perfect
it's
eaters
really
right
healthy.
there. Those
That's
are perfect.
The perfect storm of having to wait to get your eaters, so you have to let some fish go to keep fishing.
Yeah, you have
I
to
don't
throw
think
back
too
a
many
few too
anglers
big.
complain with that.
It's going to be a fun fishing this year.
So what do you look for on Red Lake around the opener? What should people key in on to look for?
And typically there is going to be a lot of fish they're going to be using that shoreline break. They spawn all along the shoreline, so they can be anywhere along the shoreline. But there's obviously a lot of warm water flowing in from the Tamarack or from the Shotley Brook down on the south side. So any influx of warmer water will concentrate a bunch of extra fish. The biggest one is going to be at the Tamarack. That's where the most people are going to be too. But if it's a south wind, you'll see a lot of people fishing down along Shotley. If there's there's going to be the north side warms up fast too. We're going to have a few more people chasing those crappies. There was a ton of crappies caught this winter out there. People now know there's a whole bunch of them. So there's going to be a lot of people trying to key on those too. And that north side seems to warm up fast, and you'll see some fish up in that stuff. So all of those spots should be really good. I can't imagine anything but a really, really good opener. Sometimes a little cool weather or something, or if the wrong wind would happen. But I think the forecast is for pretty nice stuff. And I think we're going to have just a fantastic opener up there.
That sounds great.
So, Carl, I think this is a perfect question for you, because the 2 lakes you mentioned, I think, are one that I've always heard play this game. When do spot tails shine, and when do other minnows like fatheads shine? Like, how do you determine what you're throwing that day? Because I know a lot of people say, Red Lake's spot tail deal, but a lot of people say black duck, you get a bit more on fatheads. How do you determine that?
And of all the lakes, and I fish a lot of different lakes, almost any lake, if they have a good shiner population, shiners, especially right when they're spawning, will be, if it's a slow day. So I always try to bring some shiners to red. If there's a slow day, shiners seem to work a little bit better. If you're on the Winnie or Cass, those big chain lakes all have really good shiner populations. They trap lots of shiners out of those lakes. And they can be really, it can be really tough to catch a fish if you don't have a shiner when that's what they're keying on. Blacktick does not have a big shiner population. There might be some in there, but I've personally never hooked one while I'm fishing for panfish, and I fish panfish out there a lot. A lot of other lakes I do, where you'll catch a shiner will bite on a small Ura and a small tungsten jig. So on Blacktick, I don't think it has a very many shiners in it. And so what it does have is a lot of small perch that are the size of fatheads. And in all truth, there are days when they want a little bit bigger minnow. Maybe the shine or the perch that they're eating are a little bit bigger, more like shiner size. But most of the time on Blacktick, you can catch just as many fish with a fathead. And that is primarily what we sell on Blacktick Lake.
Real quick, Carl, because time goes fast, but I got two questions in one. What's the number one mistake people make when they're going up there? And if they forget something, they could always get it at your store. What's the number one mistake that you see?
Well, the mistake as far as when they're out fishing is a lot of times guys either trying to go too fast and not realizing you have to go really slow. I'm talking that the water is going to warm up and you're going to find warm water and catch fish. But a lot of times people think that they can go that same speed they can when they've been up here in trips in mid-June. So a lot of times, anchoring up and casting a jig, you have to retrieve it really slow. When I have clients out and if they don't catch a fish, I just say, slow down, let it drag, let it sit on the bottom for a second. It doesn't hurt. But on opening day, people sometimes forget that the fish might be really shallow and that they might want it really slow. Those are two things that people sometimes won't do enough.
Perfect. Not only does he have a wealth of information, and you could go see him at Timberline Sports and Black Duck, he's got spot tails. And so he's going to be a busy man, and hopefully you can get out and hammer some fish. Timberline Sports and Black Duck and Carl Adams, they're coming your way. Good luck on the opener, and we will talk to you later. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Have fun on opener. It's going to be a good one.
We're going to. Sam, you know who we have next now? We have Will Pappenfuss, and he's already become a legendary guide, and he's also a tournament angler. We call Walleye Will, and he's from Northwoods Bait, which is a Bemidji, but he's also fishing the National Walleye Tour. Let's bring on Will. Let's find out what's happening, what he's going to do.
Before we get too much into Will, let's remind everyone about the giveaway, too.
Yes, giveaways.
Yep, we got Northland prize pack going tonight, a bunch of the new tungsten jigs, Bro Roadshow hat, Bro Roadshow mug, and the swag from Visit Bemidji. So make sure to comment your questions, and share the show, and that'll get you entered in to win. Brooke will be picking out a winner towards the end of the show here. So
fantastic. That's great. I'm glad we got it in. Will, what do you think? What's going on?
It's crunch time. We're days away from the biggest Minnesota holiday there is.
It really is. And you got a new shop going there, right in Bemidji, and you're right off 71. I would imagine it's going to be completely insane there.
Yeah, it's already starting to ramp up. It's got a different feel. We have, we're at about 1,000 square foot of space. I think in the old store now we're at like 5,000. Yeah. And there's been people rolling in pretty steady, and it's just kind of like, you think there's not as many people there, but there's almost more because everybody's so spread out. It's like, wow, this is kind of nice. You can go spread around and make sure you talk to everybody and see everybody and hear all the stories from everybody. It's nice.
No, I stopped in there last week, and it looks awesome in there, like a true quality retailer. I can't wait to be perusing the shelves all summer long. So.
And they got quite a Northland display, Sam. You've seen probably,
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
It.
Well, are you gonna have minnows on the opener? Of course, probably.
Yeah, we should. So right now we've got quite a few rainbows, and we've got sucker minnows coming in. We've got crop minnows. We've got some nice leeches in right now too. And from the sounds of it today, we should see spot tails by the weekend. It's not a for sure, but it's a pretty good chance we'll see them. So we just need
tough.
some.
So let's get into the opener day thing. It's kind of it's like a big deal. It's a cult. It's a family deal. Not a cult really, but like a happy cult. But what is your opener day tradition, Will? Walleye Will?
Usually I always go down the Leech and fish with my dad opening morning, and we stay at Spirit North Resort on the south end there. I've worked there for 6 years growing up through high school and college till I graduated. So it's usually always a tradition for us.
That's fantastic.
What are you gonna have tied on your rod for opener this year?
I've got 3 different rods tied up. I would have I like the deep V jigs quite a bit. It's got a thin wire hook. It's got a thin wire hook. It's got a little bit more gap on it for if you're using a bigger shiner. I just seem to hook up a lot better with those.
There's a deep V right there, and they got that nice profile. Makes a little V in the front, so they tip. The pill shape really gives it action.
Yeah, and they work really good in rocks too. I've lost probably 25% less with those in the rocks compared to other jigs. So
that's one thing I've heard from a lot of different pro staff, and wasn't really involved in the design, but as we started using them, they seem less snaky the way they rest and fall on those rocks for whatever reason.
Yeah, it definitely helps the pocketbooks too. I've gone through a lot less of them compared to everything else. I do like the tungstens too. I still use them when I can, but if I lose 2 or 3, it's like, okay, maybe let's grab the other box.
So this opener on Leech Lake, everybody always wants to know what depth to fish, and are you going to be fishing for crappies also, or just strictly walleyes?
Probably just walleyes. Crappies, if we get some sun this week, they'll start sliding up shallow. Guys will probably still find them up in the shallow weeds and stuff too, but all the harbors and stuff, I think they're right about ready to push in, but I haven't heard a whole lot yet. But walleyes for sure, I'd be checking sand flats anywhere from as shallow as 2 feet to as deep as 12, because you'll have those big, probably the bigger ones that have already spawned will be pushing out to that deeper water once all those boats move up shallow. So definitely don't be afraid to try a little deeper, but probably about average, I'd say anywhere from 5 to probably 9 feet of water.
Oh, good advice there.
So, Will, you are in your rookie season on the National Walleye Tour. How has that been so far? You liking it? What events are you looking forward to? Tell us a little bit about the National Walleye Tour.
It's an experience, that's for sure. The first tournament I borrowed a buddy's dad's boat and used that since mine wasn't back yet, and it was nothing but issues with batteries that wouldn't charge, trolling motor issues, kicker motor issues. All of us were having issues. It just was, all right, whose boat's working today? Who can we jump in with? Or, it's just, I was like, are we even going to get to fish this thing? We've got guys calling around to 20, 30 different shops looking for parts, looking for batteries. I mean, I fished some tournaments before and had some rough stretches and some adversity, but that was just like almost just a kick in the face every day. It's just like, do we go home, or what happened, or what are we gonna do? And then finally the day before, everything came together and it worked out. So it's just got a different feel. Usually you have a partner who you worked with all week and you got a game plan going, but you're just sitting there and you have your co-angler and you're making all the decisions, and it's just you and the fish. So it's just got a little bit of a different feel to it.
I was watching on your
Go ahead, Sam.
I was watching that on your social media and all the things you were coming into, and I give you huge props to overcoming that and still having a great first day and a good tournament overall. Because I think those little things can get to your head so easily, and you can spin out quick and just bomb. But you had like everything that could go wrong did go wrong, but you still fished a good tournament. So congrats on that.
That's fantastic. You did. And that wasn't like a huge numbers game there. It was fewer fish. But now coming up, what tournament are you looking forward to? What stop of all the stops?
Well, if I qualify for it, it'd be the championship on Devil's Lake. It's, been fishing it for better part of close to 10 years, just periodically here and there. And it's just a cool lake. You can go there and kind of do whatever you want to do. You'll find them, and they're usually hungry, so they hit harder than some of the walleyes. Probably hit quite a bit harder than some of the walleyes around here. So it's just a little bit of a different bite, and it's close to my house, and it's a fun place.
We had some great questions here, and they're starting to add up. So we'll throw some viewer questions at you. What minnow is your minnow of choice? And is there any restrictions that you know of on Leech or anywhere else from hearing in the bait shop on where you can't fish, or is it all open?
It's all open that I know of. My favorite minnow probably to fish with just in the spring for sure, spot tails for sure on Leech, because they'll be hiding up in the sandgrass on the sand flats, and it's gonna be your number one. Number two though is definitely a rainbow for sure. Rainbow, or even if you can find a small creek chub or something to throw on or something like that. But just working it slow. I mean, water temps are not even in the 50s yet. Just touching it, maybe close to some spots, but finding the warmest water, the least amount of activity. You don't have to go boat chasing. Just find some shallow sand. Use your side imaging. If you have live scope, cool. If not, side imaging is your best friend this time of year for the shallow water stuff. So if you can find some nice shallow water, warm, kind of away from traffic, and you're gonna have fun.
What when you're fishing shallow and slow like that, what jig size are you using?
Anywhere from a 16th to an 8th most of the time. I can use a 16th if it's calm. If you get a little wind and chop, use an 8th because you kind of want to stay on the bottom most of the time, just because they are kind of just sitting there huddled with the cold water, cold temps yet. So once it warms up to those upper 50s to lower 60s, then you can start cracking it a little bit, and they'll start chasing it and want to eat it up off bottom more.
Is that when you generally start sliding into some plastics too at those temps, or will you give plastics a go slow on opener as well?
I would give them too. They really like it moving a little bit faster, so give it just a quick wrist snap, nothing crazy. But you can also drag them too. So if you're dragging them, they tend to eat them a lot better than pitching it this time of year, from what I've seen.
That's interesting, and we get the questions all the time. And when the water temperature's in the 70s, plastics really go crazy, obviously, and they still work in cold water. But it's just in our area, in all the times those walleyes like to bump that bait and then grab it sometimes, and it's pretty hard to beat a good minnow. So, Will, tell us more about Leech Lake. Is a super popular lake, and what is the big draw? Why do people like going there? Obviously, we know, but let's hear from you.
There's a lot of fish, and there's a big variety of fish classes. So you got anywhere from, you have your 10 to 12 inchers, and then you'll find your 14 to 16 inchers, and all of a sudden you crack a 19 incher, then you crack a 22, and then a 24, and then all of a sudden you get a 26, 27, or even a 29. It's just, you never know what you're going to catch. It's not like where Winnie used to be. The biggest fish you're going to catch is 24, or the smallest fish you're going to catch is maybe 16, or a slot. And you can keep 4 fish there, 1 over 20. And it's insane how many fish are still in there. So you just never know what you're going to catch out there. And it's a fun time.
We had a good question in that said, what's your go-to color for jigs? And then maybe Bro and Will talk a little bit about how you decide on what colors to use.
I really like parrot a lot, especially when it's cloudy out. When the sun comes out, I'll mix black in or gold once in a while, or even blue and white. Blue and white seems to work really good when it's sunny out. But anytime it's cloudy, I'll definitely have parrot or chartreuse in there.
There's a black deep V right there. Pretty wicked.
That looks like some modded out Bro with you popping off the eyes on.
Yeah, that's a miscast, and it hit my boat.
Oh,
and then in the Cara beds, I'll use this weedless fireball. I like popping that through, and you could just let it go right in the car and pull it through. Those walleyes on leech just love sitting there waiting for stuff to come out of that. And Cara, well, is actually a good spawning weed. It has an antifungal agent to it, so it keeps the eggs from getting moldy or dying, and it keeps them separate from the bottom so they don't get silted over. But that's fantastic. So we got your favorite color. So do you have any other advice? What's the biggest mistake people make when they go to Leech Lake, or you hear at Northwoods Bait on the opener?
Biggest thing would be boat chasing. So anytime you see 5 or more boats piled on a spot, you want to pull in there, and 9 times out of 10 you maybe see 2 fish there. So just kind of trying to find wherever the wind's blowing into, any points that they're holding on, or anything that's got a good flat away from people. That's where those fish are going to be. Don't get stuck sitting in a pack of boats, because those fish are going to be hundreds of yards away from there.
That's a great tip of advice. Because I think a lot of people do that on the openers. They go to the community holes and whatnot, and I'm guilty of it. I did it last opener, and I stood, went to the community hole and spent 5-10 minutes, and they were not there. And as I started to slide down away from the boat, started to pick up fish left and right. So that's a really good tip.
So this is something someone was asking, water temps using the Deep V bucktail jigs. You can see here in plastics, water temps for the buck hair versus the plastic, and we kind of answered it on the plastics. But in colder water, do you use more hair jigs, Will?
I've been messing around with it a little bit. I just need to keep doing it more so I get more confidence in it. Because once I tie one on and see 1 or 2 people catch one without a hair jig on, I cut it off pretty fast and switch. So I just
I would imagine.
I need to stick with it more so I get more confidence in it. But I've seen them work wonders though.
Bro, so, when do you like to use the hair, Bro?
Actually, I like this in cold water. I've had really good luck with these. If you can't get the minnows that you need, there's sometimes they absolutely smash these. They just about rip the rod out of your hands. And try colors that you don't like. Like I would never tie on black, except I absolutely hammer fish on it. So I tie it on now, and I want to tie on something bright all the time. But it seems cold water, and then plastics. I'll use these the Northland plastics, and there's some new stuff coming, and I'll tie that on a stealth rig, which is a drop shop out of adaptation. But anyway, here's kind of what we use. But great questions.
Kendra just asked you guys, when you're using a hair jig, do you tip it with a minnow?
Small one sometimes.
Small one, yeah. I think, we were talking about this year, shiners might be, or you might have trouble getting shiners. I think that's a great utilization of a fat head, is tipping a hair jig with a fat head. You get that little larger profile like the shiner, but you still get away with just buying fat heads. So
Yeah, to me it kind of depends if the water is clear. So if you got a little bit more stained or dirty water, then you probably don't have to. But when you have clear water like zebra mussels and stuff around here, when they can see it and they're chasing it, sometimes a minnow on there with a little scent helps.
That's great advice. Hope everybody's writing this down, because Walleye Will just spoke it, and it means something. And good luck on your tournaments, and we can't wait to see how you do online. You could see them online. And thanks for coming on the show tonight, Will. And we hope that we see you at the top in the tournaments.
Yeah, I hope so too. Well, you guys have a good opener and good luck.
Yeah, you betcha. So thanks so much. Up next, he is a fishing pro that came on the scene and changed the landscape of fishing already. In a short amount of time, has won 9 tournaments, has second placed in 8 tournaments, team of the year several times, and has so many awards he might have to buy a bigger house to put them all. It's Tom Wynn. Legendary angler is on the show right now.
Legendary.
How do you like that?
I don't know about that, but you just had
look at that wall. This is a new background from you, and now we can kind of see the proofs in the pudding with that back wall you got.
Yeah, Nate and I put that up, and we finally got around to putting our stuff up, and it was like, holy wow,
Yeah,
it added up in a couple of years.
Well, hey, you did fantastic, and you have a natural neck for walleye fishing, and I'm sure you like catching everything, like you mentioned the last time you're on. But if you could fish somewhere and win and do that, walleyes are your deal right now, and so it's going to be really interesting to see how you do. But so let's get to opener day in Minnesota. It's such a big deal. Are you going to be fishing the opener?
I won't be. I'll be over fishing with Will over in Wisconsin. Yeah, so I'll be in Wisconsin for the opener. I don't think I was an opener last year either in Minnesota. But it's all good. I'll be back as soon as that tournament's over. I have a tournament on Leech Lake, actually, like a day after my NWT. So.
Wow, that is pushing it.
It is kind of pushing, but it's the nature of the game, and I think this might be the last season of fishing 2 circuits. So it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's fun.
Well, good. So you grew up in, I believe, was it Arkansas?
Arkansas, yep.
Yeah. So what did you think when you came up north and you started to learn about the buzz of walleye opener? Is it? I assume it's a little bit different than what's down south. I think they have more open seasons. What is it like coming into the hustle and bustle of a walleye opener?
It's pretty crazy. Like I remember the first time I got a boat, and it wasn't that long ago, but during walleye opener, I was out there trying to find largemouth bass, trying to find bass, and at the time, when I first started, somebody told me, oh, there's a season for bass in Minnesota. I'm like, what? It's like the only state in the country that has off limits for bass. But because of that, I would go target walleyes during those first few years, and I never caught a limit. I would go do what everybody else was doing, go to the bait shop, ask what a Lindy rig was, tie one on, and go do it. With, like Will said, you find those boats and you're like, oh, there must be fish over there. And so, I would only, probably catch 2 or 3 at the most on a day, on my best day. And it was just something to do, something to be out there fishing. But now opener is a whole different thing. It's like trying to expand what I know different times of year and just try and find those big fish during different seasons. And it's different. Like in the summertime, they relate to different things than they do in the spring. In the spring, I think they're harder to target, but I like that challenge.
And I like that too, because it kind of segues. We had a great question. We get a bunch, but this one was real good. How do you break down a new lake? Do you look at it as a spring, summer, fall kind of thing before you start, or what's your like kind of go-to way of breaking one down?
I guess I go to Winnebago here in a couple of days, and I haven't even looked at the map of it yet. I'll do that when I get there, and I'll pick out the best spots, and I'll just go look. I'll trust my electronics, go use side scan, everything, go look around. So I don't. Part of it is I'm so busy at home when I'm not fishing. Like I, have the businesses at home, and just so busy that I don't have the time. But I think that's also helped me in the fact that I'm going in with my own ways to find them and ways to look for them versus watching a bunch of YouTube videos maybe and looking at history and being like, oh, this is where I need to go. This is where I need to target. So the way I break down a lake is I literally will get there, pick some structure that looks good. The time of year does matter for that. Like right now, they'll be shallower, I believe. And in the summer, the bigger ones will move deeper and they spread out. The bigger ones go, like that big buck does. It just kind of goes off on its own. So that's my strategy. It's very simple. I don't have much of a plan going into these things. When I have had a plan, it never works anyway. So.
So talking about that a little bit, what's your favorite way to catch pre-spawn and spawn walleye, and maybe especially big fish, since that's kind of what you do?
Pre-spawn walleye are well, if it's a river system, I like moving baits and aggressive baits. Like if I'm jigging, I'll be snapping it more. Even though it's in the river, I think that reaction bite, they'll pin it. I mean, in a river, you've got fast moving current. Those fish are active. Those fish are always moving. So I think that's a little bit different than in a lake. In a lake, that cold water has them moving a little bit slower. And so you do want a slower presentation. But so in lakes, I'll use a light jig, 1/8 ounce, 16th ounce. And even though in some cases we get impatient for that jig to hit the bottom, we're whether it's a plastic or a minnow. And yes, with the hair jig thing earlier, I do tip my hair jigs with minnows in the spring and move them very slow. If you have to, you give it a pop up and just let it sit. And sometimes, like I said before, like there's a lot of people who've asked me, like, what are you doing out there? Because a lot of times I'm just holding that rod. I'm hardly even moving. And just as long as you keep that fish's attention. But yeah, in cold water, lakes, light tackle, light baits, slow presentation.
That's good advice. Hope everybody's listening to this. And in Winnebago, what Northland lure are you going to have tied on first to try? I mean, if you got a secret, you don't give it up, here. But
what about leech? So if you're opening on leech this weekend, like a lot of guys would, what jig would you have tied on?
I would have the tungsten tied on. There's no doubt about it. I don't Northland has a lot of different styles of jigs. Your stand-up jigs have always been popular for people, the deep V's. But when it comes down to it, that tungsten is going to give me that smaller presentation. And yeah, that's one of the stand-ups. And the tungsten, it's going to downsize my presentation so much. And in that clear water, I just still believe the smaller the vehicle and the slower you can move it, plus that hard metal, you can feel it. You can feel every single thing on that cold water. Those fish are barely picking that up, and you want to be able to feel it.
For reference, up here we got this is a 16th ounce fireball, and this is an 1/8 ounce tungsten.
See?
And you can see the size difference. And what Tom's talking about is the smaller presentation, the feel.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's awesome. All right, let's see.
We got questions rolling in here, but so Tom, any new tactics without giving away your game? And then also water clarity. Does it change or affect your approach?
Water clarity does in my line selection, but it doesn't change it much. So most of the time, I'm going to be throwing. I'll have an 8-pound fluorocarbon leader on, unless I'm at Lake of the Woods or some giant walleye factory, But 8 pound will go down to 6 in super clear water. And as far as new tactics, I'm always trying something different. I always try something new. So, for example, when I go to Winnebago, I've never been there. I'll use things right away that I'm comfortable with or that I have high confidence in. And then I will start experimenting, start showing them something different. But I think from what I've been doing, and I don't run with a team necessarily with a bunch of history and bunch of experience. I share housing and stuff with Sean Grams, and we're learning some things from each other. And he's a rookie, and so, but as far as secret baits or anything, my go-to bait will be some new plastics that I'm very excited about. The new design of these plastics, and the technology behind. And I'm big into scents, and there's some stuff for scents that I will be showing here pretty soon. Probably while I'm in Winnebago, I'll do something showing a new scent. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, we are too. So I can't wait to see what it is. So Sam, there's some more questions, isn't there, rolling in there?
Well, a good one just came through. That this will be a kind of brief one. Then I got a topic we can dive a little deeper into. But someone asked, do you guys tie your leaders direct braid to the leader, or are you using a swivel with that?
No swivel. It's a direct. I do a double uni knot. The swivel will get caught up in your guides, and your casting distance will be greatly reduced. And so, yeah, no, and it's something for the fish to see. So if you have a fluorocarbon braid, learn that double uni knot. And there's a couple other knots out there. I just learned that one early on and just stuck with that one, and it's been a good one for me.
Well, there's the Alberto, but I mean, tying that outside in your boat's complicated. But
Yeah.
I don't use a swivel either, and I have some eyelets laying in the floor in my garage that are resemble what happens when you have a swivel and you have eyelets. They try to reel the fish. They don't just reel the swivel; they try to reel the whole fish down to the reel. So no swivels here either.
Yep.
Okay, so a topic for you, Tom. How are you targeting bigger fish in tournaments or whatnot? So some of these people going out in opener and they want to get some of the bigger fish in the school. What are you doing to find those bigger fish? Are they separate from an area? Are they mixed in and you're just using different techniques? What do you kind of key on to get the big bites?
Sometimes the big fish are mixed in with that school. So if an opener, you're going out and doing what everybody does, going out and looking for that school. If you're looking to just catch the biggest fish out of the system, get away from that school. I mean, the bigger fish will be typically, from what I've noticed, the bigger fish don't school up like the smaller eater size fish. They're off by themselves, and typically they will move in and out of that school, but they just move in and out because that school of walleyes, the eater size walleyes, they're there for a reason. They're there to eat. And so those big ones, they will move in with them to eat, and then they're going to move right back out, I believe. I think they're on the edges. So when you see that bunch of boats fishing those schools, stay 100, 200 yards out. That sounds far, but it's not that far. Stay 100 or 200 yards out from that school and do your scanning, and you'll see that one or two random marks. And typically that one or two marks are the bigger fish. If you see a school of, this is my opinion again, if you're going around on a side scan, you see a school of 20 fish, that's not going to be your biggest fish in that area. The biggest ones are sitting by themselves, kind of, you know, 1 or 2 fish sitting here and there. So stay away from the schools if you want the big ones.
And we always ask you this, but the viewers may not have seen the past ones. I had a viewer ask, do you ever use bobbers and jig wrap style baits on active fish?
I've never even used on inactive fish, so I haven't used I haven't caught one on a slip bobber or the glide bait, any glide bait. I just have yet to do it. I would, if I struggled in other ways, I would do what most people do, but I just keep with my confidence, and I get a better. I think I'm getting a better hookup ratio as well.
That's great advice right there.
So, Tom, this is another question we kind of always ask you on the show, and I think me and Bro know the answer, but I know we got a lot of new viewers watching tonight. What are your thoughts on colors for walleye? What color jigs do you like to use?
Any natural. So black. I just I have just a couple jigs of color, but black and the gold shiner. I like the gold shiner color. It's black and gold. And Will mentioned this one. If I do go with any color at all, it's blue and white. Like that's basically if I run out of the other ones, I think. But I don't ever go with color. I just don't. I've never had to, and I just believe that black in clear water. I mean, look at the forage. I mean, leeches black. If the most popular plastic bait in bass fishing, and bass and walleye, I think, are very, very similar predatory fish. If you look at the most popular bait color in bass fishing, it's green pumpkin. When you look at leeches, they're either solid black or they're green pumpkin. That just hit me 2 or 3 years ago. I'm looking at these giant leeches in my hand. I'm like, they're like army green and black spots. It's like, is that where the color green pumpkin came from? So it's like, I haven't, and in dark stained water, that black, or cloudy days, that black makes a silhouette, you know. So I just believe that, in my opinion, that's just the go-to color for me at all times.
And now, Sam, we better talk about that giveaway. We got more time tonight because it's an extended version, but what are we giving away?
Yes,
there's a pile of stuff.
We got some of the Northland tungsten jigs, the ones we've been talking about.
Wow.
We got the Bro Roadshow hat and mug, and of course the Visit Bemidji swag, the stuffed animal Paul and Babe, which they're miniature size. They're not the actual size of Paul and Babe. But make sure to like, comment your questions, and share the show, and that'll get you entered in to win. Brooke will be picking out a winner for us at the end of the show here. So like, comment, and share. And like Bro said, we got a few extra minutes tonight, so you got time yet.
Plus, we got the cabin box. The kit. It looks like fast food from Northland right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. That?
Make sure, Brooke, if you want to bring that back up.
Oh, look at that.
Sure to check out our new cabin kits on there. It's got the slip bobber that Tom just talked about fish on. But everything else, or everything in there, is good fish catching stuff. Everything you need for walleye. So make sure to check out the cabin kit.
I could use that slip bobber as a straw. I think it's, you know.
Oh, well, we got the questions keep rolling, and here's one more. And I don't know if you use.
Can we extend on what we were talking about a little bit before we get to the next one? So how does we talked about jig head color. Does that transfer into your plastics too? Are you using really natural plastics, or do you kind of match the hatch a little bit?
I'll match the hatch. With plastics, I'll go, like, if it's a shiner, I'll go with something that resembles a shiner. I will go with white or pearl for shad type presentations and stuff like that. But yes, again, dark. So if I had one color to choose to use at all times, it'd be, 2 colors. It'd be, again, black and green pumpkin, but mostly black.
That sounds very bass-like, though.
Huh?
It sounds like real bass-like, you know. for a
Yeah,
bass-
yeah, it is. It is. But again, confidence. So when I first started doing this and tried to get them to eat plastics, and I just needed one big walleye to eat it, and then after that, like it's all about confidence. Then, if you throw it with confidence, you put it in front of the right fish, have that patience, annoy that fish. Some people think they're annoying the fish by ripping baits, and they probably are. But my version of annoyance is just let it sit there and barely move it. So that I don't know. Black is just the more natural color. It doesn't really. If if anything spooked a color, I would say it would be something that they're like, okay, that's weird. That doesn't look natural at all. So it's just
That's
black.
that's really really good advice. And so crankbaits, there's a lot of people use crankbaits year round in different areas, and they want to know, do you use and what's your favorite crankbait? Do you use crankbaits to get the bigger females out, lead core, or even casting day or night to get walleyes this time of year?
Yeah. So I will use crankbaits. And again, it'll be crankbaits that have a quick dive depth. I like ones to get down fast when I'm casting, and those I will match the hatch. I like the shad designs, the bluegill colors, things like that for my crankbaits. And a lot of times right now I'm fishing structure, and I'll use crankbaits to pull fish off a structure that I can't see with my electronics. So, I'll use those crankbaits, cast over the structure, pull it back, watch it on my electronics. And a lot of times I'll be able to pull a big fish off of that structure and recast back in there with my confidence baits and catch that fish but I have crankbaits tied on all the time, mainly for that reason, is to search and look for those big ones that I might pass.
Like a rumble shad or a rumble bug or something like that?
Yeah, so I have the smaller one.
Rumble bug.
Rumble bug,
Yep,
yeah.
for shallow this time of year. Yep, and then I have that in it's a black and white, something like that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
You got
know.
like a silver shiner type.
Yep.
Yep,
Mhm.
yep.
Yep.
So,
And then, so I like those for search baits, and they will actually hit them. They'll hit. I mean, I use them mostly for searching. And funny story, real quick, on Lake Vermilion last year, we were pre-fishing, and Walleye Will was coming up behind me. We were pre-fishing, and he was way back though, and I had my big crankbait, search bait on, but I had my confidence bait in my hand. And he was getting closer. So I was like, I'm gonna put this down. I grabbed my giant crankbait. I'm like, he's gonna probably think I'm joking around anyway. I don't even know if he saw it, but I launched this thing and start reeling it back, and I see a fish come up at it and just looks at it. And I pause, I stop it. And then I reel it one more crank, and then just annihilated it. I'm like, oh.
Wow.
trying
So
to fake them out and
yeah,
end up
I
giving away the
bringing
secrets.
this big walleye in with one of my competitors behind me, and but yeah, the crankbaits do work casting for walleyes.
That tells you something too, that they're not afraid of bigger baits.
No, they're not. They want to eat. They want to get the bigger the fish that they can eat, the better for them. The less they have to work. So
Do you use big baits to get big bites at times? Because it sounds like sometimes you use finesse baits and annoy them with just being subtle and
I use big baits to get their attention.
okay.
So if I'm fishing mud or something where the fish are tight to the bottom and you cannot see them with your electronics, and then I'll fish big baits to get them down there and just slow roll it down toward the bottom, and then they'll come up, look at it, and then come right back down. And I know that fish is in the vicinity. Then I'll cast back with my finesse baits.
Oh, great answers here, and it kind of shows that you never know, and you have everything that. And I'm sure your boat's packed with stuff from the bass world, the walleye world, and bass techniques are being like they're a big deal in walleye now. They're transferring over, and there's been some talk of maybe up to 70% of the walleye tournaments are being won with bass style techniques. And that's where I want to say, when I say you started a trend years ago, when people are sitting in the back of their tiller or they're in their wheel boat, there's one person up front, one in the back. You guys were fishing up front. You're using a bass boat to start, and you're always up front. And now I noticed everybody's up front now. So you started a trend, and so that's something I noticed, and so they're following, they're after you. So that's got to be a fun feeling, huh?
It's a great feeling. It's still unreal to me. I didn't realize that at the time was going to happen, but to see that now and to see like how most of our competitors are standing up front, to be basically the first to do it. It's weird to say, but it's nuts. But you look at Bassmaster Elite tournaments, like the one in South Dakota last year, that got caught a giant in Lake Oahe using bass techniques in 70 feet of water. And it just, that just shows you, and he was using a big plastic, so it just shows you that for years now the bass anglers are catching big walleyes, and not a lot, but the ones you need to win tournaments.
Well, and we had Gussie on the show, the first one, and he won the Bassmaster on Tennessee River. But he said when he was up in New York and on that St. Lawrence River, he dropped an aquaview. He could see rocks, and he knew there's fish there, but he dropped an aquaview down, and he could see a bass sitting between the rocks. So is there a time you would ever use an underwater camera like an aquaview?
I've thought about it. I've never had one. I've never had. I talk about wanting to get one and stuff. I've just never gotten around to getting one or trying one. But I think it'd be very interesting. Like,
we'll have to talk to somebody.
Let's do it, because I'm always curious sometimes, what am I missing down there? And I know I am. And even though as much as I've tried to train myself on the forward-facing sonar and stuff like that, I know I'm missing things. I would like to know more of what I'm missing.
That's really a great info, and that's I use it all the time and find out some of the fish are suckers. But Sam, when do you use an aquaview? Just out of curiosity, because Sam does tournaments too here.
Yeah, I would like to start playing with it more in the summer. Actually, I got one of the strike views from Aquaview last summer, and I had a lot of fun with that. That's the one where you tie onto your line, and it works best trolling, which I'm not a huge trolling guy, but after trolling that around, I learned a ton. It's kind of like what Tom was saying of watching them on live sonar, using big baits to pull fish up off the bottom. You can run that strike view around, and it's incredible to see what species of fish and how the fish are coming up and checking out baits or hitting baits. So I do that a lot in the summer. I'd like to start dropping my aquaview on specific locations, especially once you roll over them with the side imaging or whatnot to see what it looks like. Dropping back on that. So,
well, we're starting to get a few more questions. A couple of them. Tom, when do you use UV versus glow? And then when do you start using leeches? What water temp?
UV versus glow, I don't use either one. So
I love it.
Yeah,
stuff here.
I don't use either one. So leeches, water temp, I will start using them as soon as leeches are available, because when leeches are starting to run and they're already in the systems in Minnesota, so I will start using them as soon as I can get my hands on them. And I just haven't had a problem with it being too early for leeches, or too late. So when myself and Mike were out on Leech Lake filming last fall, we witnessed, we were still using leeches in that lake, and they were eating them. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a, standard. Will they eat crawlers early? I do. I think so.
they never stop eating leeches. Basically, is if the leech is out there, they're gonna destroy them.
Yeah, I think so. I just don't, when I was learning walleye fishing a few years ago and reading stuff, it was just like, okay, it's minnows first, then you get your leeches and crawlers. And I just always wondered why. So then it made me wanted to try them. And it's still, I still catch fish on them anytime.
So, I mean, I feel like that's part of, well, at least it used to be part of being a good walleye fisherman, is being a good bait keeper, and being able to get the best bait, keep it alive. Both Bro and Tom, what are some things you guys do to make sure your bait stays good before a tournament, fishing it for the week? How are you guys keeping that bait alive and healthy?
Well, I'll let Tom go on that one first.
Well, if it's leeches, just keep them cold. Change out the water every day. Keep well water. If you're in before a tournament, if you are in a place that doesn't have well water, use bottled water. But just keep the water very, very cold at all times. Don't let that temperature get up, because they will start to spawn, and they'll die like immediately after that. So minnows, same thing. Keep your water clean. Change out your water, not all of it all at once. I'll do maybe half, and then just keep the aerators on. And if you have to keep them on alive overnight, plug them, get an AC cord for your aerator, plug it in. That way you don't run out of batteries. That's just what I do when I am using live bait.
I agree. Sometimes it's hard to get well water, and so chlorine is a gas. So I'll have a 5-gallon bucket or something, and I'll fill it up with cold chlorinated water, and I'll let it sit overnight and let the gas escape out of it, and then you're better off. And throw one minnow at a time in there. Don't dump the whole batch in there.
Yeah.
They're good. And then with our water laws in Minnesota, I always have 2 aerated bait buckets. Like I have the big Frable bait bucket, and I'll have I'll have both with the same water from the same tank, but one without minnows. So when I get done, I can just net out the minnows, dump the water, and throw them in the next one. That way you don't. Otherwise, it make you dump them at well, you're supposed to dump them anyway. You're not supposed to transport water, but if you have it in a cooler, it's good. Yeah. And but with leeches, I even in the fridge, I have a fridge just for leeches and crawlers, and I have bubblers on them in the fridge. But they don't always need lots of water, because they'll hang on the outside. And I notice some trappers will have like a little waterfall of where they have little short containers and water dripping down, and then you got to feed them. If you have leeches, you can't just like never feed them. And a fish fillet, but you got to get all the bones out. If there's one little bone and a leech gets stuck on it, the other leeches attack and kill it. So it gets a little complicated, but it's worth it because bait's so expensive.
I say being a bait keeper, I think, makes you a good walleye fisherman. I used to be really bad at catching walleyes and really bad at keeping bait alive, and I'm getting better at both of them.
That's fantastic. Now, have you ever used creek chubs in a tournament?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you have. Okay.
Yep. I have actually. Where I saw you for the first time on Cass, I used. So when Nate and I fish together, we'll each have something different on. So if I throw at something and it doesn't have that reaction, he'll follow up. But we never cast at the same time. If we're targeting, like if we are targeting a single fish, we never cast at the same time at that fish. We do it separate. And yeah, and but it's all 2 different baits. And sometimes it is creek chub. They like those big giant minnows sometimes. Like I said, the bigger the meal for them, I think the better. They can just eat one time, they're done for a day or 2. They don't have to be going around snacking and wasting a bunch of energy.
That's a fussy bait. Can be fussy, but I've got creek chubs since last fall in a tank, and they ate all their friends. There's nobody else left in there except creek chubs. They're a big minnow that eats anything smaller than them, or you'll find a headless body floating around. But these creek chubs made it all the way through, and
Wow.
that's just it. If you take care of your bait, you can recycle it and make it last a long time. And there's one guy out of Bemidji, this Dan Fuller, is probably the best bait alive out of anybody I've ever met. I think his minnows are the oldest minnows anybody will ever have, and they're real healthy. So if someone's going to have to, we might have to have him and ask him how to keep them. But so in the up and coming events, are you worried about bait? Or are you just going to go there and try artificials?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about live bait as far as being able to get it or not get it. Like I've worked my confidence with my plastics and techniques to try to get those fish to bite. And if there's live bait, I'll probably have some on hand. It's always good, especially in a co-angler situation. There's times when they're not accustomed to your cadence or what you found in practice. So sometimes just dragging that live bait rig is good. So I will look for live bait.
Interesting.
I'm kind of looping back to the scent question because we had a lot of questions about scent earlier in the in the show. Do you
don't say snow?
Don't say. Yeah, I know. It's got.
Tom don't like snow either.
Tom, do you marinate your plastics? I know, like some of the guys on the Bassmaster Elite Series, like Taku E2, I think they soak their plastics for even like a year. Are you a big believer in getting that plastic or scent in the plastic and marinating it, or are you kind of adding as you're fishing?
No, mine are soaking. Yeah, mine are in the packages that they come in soaking. And yeah, because now not all plastic either is created equal. So there's some plastics out there that you can add scent to or put scent on, and you put it in the water, it's gone. I mean, it doesn't matter if you've been soaking it for a year or not. There's other plastics though. Some of the new plastic technology is soaking it up like a sponge, and so the longer it's in there, the better to me. I mean, why not? If you got time, soak them.
Exactly. And so we've been kind of teasing it a little bit on the show. Northland's got a new line of plastics coming out, and it's pretty amazing what it does. You can actually add scent to the bag overnight and come back the next morning, and you're like, where did the scent go? Because it literally sucks it up like a sponge.
And I didn't know we could talk about that yet, Sam.
We can tease it a little bit.
Let's just say there's some excited guys right here about what's coming. And I know, Tom, you know about the stuff, but we're teasing the crowd. There's stuff coming in. It's going to be fantastic. And now we getting back to opener, because it's kind of an opener day edition, and I don't want to drift out of state just yet. If you're going to fish in Minnesota in the opener on Leech Lake or Cass Lake or Ottertail, would you use plastics, Tom?
I would right away. Yeah, just out of habit and my confidence. But then if they were being finicky and I knew that I'm casting at a walleye and they're not eating, and then I will I'll go to a live bait. I'll put a minnow on there when they're not wanting plastics. But the plastics are coming so far now that you can, it's almost get them to, it's getting to be a time where they're so realistic, and they not only in the look, but the feel is a big thing, but also the scent again. But I don't think pretty soon the seasons aren't going to matter. We're going to be able to pull these fish. So if the fish is going to see this plastic in the summer or fall and eat it, what's the difference in the spring? They're still seeing the same bait. So that's just my thoughts on it. And like Sam, what you said about these baits coming out and then sucking up whatever scent you're putting in there. Like, I took one of mine out of the pack and just left it on one of my rods after the last tournament, and went to the rod locker to switch some stuff out the other day, and it went like halfway in size.
Yeah.
Down. So that it's just some crazy stuff.
That's what it is. And Sam, you see it because you have to design this stuff. It's we've advanced, and I'd say in the last 5 years, tremendously. But the last 3,
It's
plastics
crazy.
are confident. They're not just we're throwing the dice. They're confident, and Sam knows because this is some of the stuff that's cooking in his head that Tom and I are using, and super stoked about it. But we're getting close to the end here, and we're gonna have we're gonna have to pick a winner. What could they win, Sam? Could you tell them?
Yep. So we got the Northland prize pack tonight. A bunch of the new Northland tungsten jigs in there. A couple of the mimic jigs. We got some Bro Roadshow swag, the hat, and the mug, and then of course the Visit Bemidji stuff. We got a camo hoodie and a little stuffed animal, Paul and Babe. So to get entered, make sure to like, comment, and share. I think we're gonna get going for a few more minutes yet. But like, comment, and share, and that'll get you entered. And Brooke will be picking out a winner in a few minutes.
We got a few minutes, and then we're going to pick out a winner on the extended opener day version. And some of this stuff is kind of all over the place, but remember, a lot of these techniques will work on opener. And make sure to check with Carl over at Timberline Sports and Will in Northwoods Bait. These guys are going to have bait. They're going to have advice, and they're going to keep you up on what's going on. And then we're going to also have the last of the season Bro Roadshow is going to be next Monday at 7. Just a little reminder ahead here. So before we get going, so as far as line, in the last show, Tom was talking about high vis line, and that helps your partner net your fish. Is that the way to go, you think?
Yeah, it's good for the partner to see it. The line when your fish is coming up to that, when the leader is coming up, because you're not going to see that fluorocarbon, or if it's dark green braid, like a lot of people use, like Nate was using that in our first year. I'm like, I got so annoyed. I'm like, dude, no, we can't do this.
You can't see it.
Couldn't see it. Even when we were both fishing up front, and he would cast, I'm like trying to look, and I could not see his line. And it's good to be able to see your line. So if a fish picks it up and you have that slack in your line because you don't want those big ones to feel that you're on the other end. Yeah. I fish with a lot of slack in my line after the bait's out there. And then sometimes all I'm seeing is that line moving. And so that high vis line helps me to do that.
We got one for Sam real quick. Date on the plastics being released.
So it's looking like I believe it'll be some stores will have them available in the fall, come maybe November-ish. But everyone will have them next spring for sure. So keep an eye out for them. Slight possibility they might come out earlier, but for sure early next summer, if not maybe the fall yet. So
that's a long wait.
But we'll be releasing more. We'll be releasing more information on them around ICAST in July. So
that's going to be fantastic. And so people are wondering, is there any kind of scent you could hint, Tom? They're taking guesses like cider, billy rub, and what do you use to soak and marinate it. But what would be something you'd recommend without giving up your tournaments?
I soak them right here. I'm just kidding. Not really.
What's in your mug?
There's actually iced tea in there, just so you know. But no, so so there's a small bait company. They're not going to be small for long. Not bait company, scent company out of Tennessee. And the guy that founded this company has been in the scent business for a long time. And he got together with the chemist and some stuff, and he came up with the brand. I'm going to do a video next week because I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything on this yet. I haven't spoken about it. I haven't said anything because I haven't had a chance to be in a system like I will be next week to actually utilize it the way. But I got to use it last fall. It's crazy. It's called Bait Pop. And
Bait Pop.
Yes. And not only are the scents geared towards, the fish that you're trying to catch, which, I was using the bass scent first because that's what was out. That's what he had. And here's the thing about Bait Pop. It's crazy. So the formulation is when you put it on a 16th ounce jig or even a 32nd ounce jig for crappie fishing, and what it does is you put it on your jig just a little bit, smear it on there, you can cast it out, and on forward facing sonar, it explodes. Like it's a sonar intensifier.
I've
So
seen it,
yeah, so and you know, we did a thing where we put it on the line. Like you cast out with forward facing sonar, you can see your bait sometimes, but you can't see the fluorocarbon. We put some up the line about a foot and cast it out, and it was just like you could see the line on your forward facing sonar.
Wow, who I seen that with, Nick Cox had some of that up this winter. Nick, if you're out there, yes, I remember. But that's going to be very, very interesting. And we before we give stuff away here, Sam, they really quick want to know where we're going for the opener. Where are you going, Sam?
Ooh, should I tell the secret? No, I will probably be around the Bemidji area. A lot of times I like going out to Lake Plantagenet right away early in the morning. And then I hit some smaller lakes in the afternoon for some bass around the Bemidji area. But those secrets are staying with me. Those bass.
And that's a
lakes
catch and release only season on the
Yep.
Minnesota opener.
Yep, catch and release. So yep,
For
I'll do
bass.
some catch and release bass. But walleye, either probably be Lake Bemidji or Lake Plantagenet. So
Perfect. Well, Heather, I fished with Heather in the opener, and we come up with names, and we're going to throw it in a hat and pull. And one of them is Rainy River, because it's a mile-long parking in the spring when it's the only game in town, and everybody's everywhere else. So it's a ghost town for the most part, except and she wants Minnetonkas on there too, only to see if I have a heart attack. And she's testing that, probably has an insurance policy thing here. And then the other one is Leech Lake. And so we're going to throw this stuff in a hat and stir it up. And I'm hoping that it's one of the other two, not the one. So, and then, of course, Tom will be playing for some big dough. And we wish you luck. And we appreciate you coming on the show. We've got an extended time here. So, everybody, Tom Wynn, you can follow him on his Facebook site. He's a popular guy, and he's changing the way we walleye fish. So good luck on your tour, and thanks for coming out tonight.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Sam, do we have a winner?
We're ready. So tonight's winner, Northland prize pack, Bro Roadshow mug and hat. Visit Bemidji swag is going to be Brenda Vandervoort. So congratulations.
Congratulations, Brenda.
We'll be
opener day prize packet.
And yeah.
But you might not get it by. Do you think they'll get it by opener?
I will try. I've been kind of late on shipping them out, but I will try to get it out tomorrow. That way, in hopes we have it for opener. So, Brenda, I'm going to do my best to get it out tomorrow. And if I get it out tomorrow, it should be to you by opener. So
good. This is great, and enjoy all that, and maybe get a picture with the Bro Roadshow hat if you can. And we'd like to see how it goes for you, because we're going to do an after the opener thing next week. And before we go, Sam, since this is about the opener, we just want to say that good luck, everybody, on the opener. And I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for sponsoring the show. And Chesterburg, if you want a great deal and if you want to have the state-of-the-art repair shop, body shop, and they have coffee, stop in and say hi, tell them Bro sent you. And maybe they could wheel and deal with you on a car. Bemidji Sports Center. Let's go play in the mud. Let's get on a trail. Hit the trail side-by-sides, four-wheelers, and they have a lot of tricked-out toys there. If you walk in, you're going to love it. And then, of course, visit Bemidji. Push one button, visit Bemidji, go into your internet, and you could plan out your summer vacation, where to stay, where to fish. They have it all right there. Visit Bemidji. And, of course, my producer, Brooke, and my co-host, Sam, for coming up with some great stuff, plus a designer, shoots big turkeys. And, then Tom Wynn for being on the show, Will Pappenfuss. Those two are going to be after each other on the tournament scene. And, of course, Carl Adams for shiners and stuff. He's loaded already. I'm going there tomorrow. I don't know about anybody else, but everybody, good luck on the opener. Be safe. And we'll see you next week at 7 o'clock. We got Brad Hawthorne, Nick Linder are going to be up to bat, and we've got Log Cabin Bait. So we'll see you next week.
There we go. All right. Oh, yeah, look at him. You got to fight him on the surface.
What I like to do is take an RC jig from Northland Fishing Tackle.
Get the shiner after the fish attacked it. Hook 'em weedless style.
This puppy wanted a jigging size sucker minnow. Yeah, sucker minnow.